Watching the political landscape right now sort of reminds me of watching House of Cards. I remember watching that and sort of being horrified because it was a great show to watch, but I was also wondering how much of this actually happens. These stories don't come out of nowhere. And right now, that's the place this nation is in. It's a system and an infrastructure of secrecy and webs of lies and bands of brothers that defend each other, not because of what's right, but because of an agreement or money. 3 corporations run this world in the US, basically, and the digital age has completely diminished the power of human connection, intentionality, the instant gratification world we live in makes people feel disconnected because you don't have to work the way that you did in the past, the way the boomers talk about, the way the elderly talk about. Times have changed so fast that we can't continue the way things are right now. I remember about a year ago, I don't remember what I was watching on the news, but probably stuff having to do with immigration because I live here in El Paso, Texas, which is the largest blue city and the biggest red state in the 48. Separated from the rest of Texas because we're 86% Hispanic. We're not even on the same time zone or electric grid as 90% of Texas. We stand alone in a lot of ways. We're an outlier. We're an outlier as a blue city in a red state. We're outliers as Hispanics. 86% compared to any other city in the nation. There's only a few cities like that. There's a difference. And that difference has allowed me to see the flip side of red and blue, gay and straight, and different perspectives and opinions. About a year ago, I realized the world has come to a place where this is not sustainable. Red and blue upending the system and changing every 4 years, or the House of Representatives and who's in control, what's going on. It doesn't work anymore because they're completely different goals. And when you have things like a pipeline shut down in Alaska because now we're focused on green and eliminating all fossil fuels, a certain amount by 2030 and by 2050, you can't just upend the system and switch back and forth like this. Yes, green initiatives are good. The pipeline, I don't know. What are the pros and cons here? How can we, little by little, systematically, 1% at a time, do better than we were? Because we can't just keep going back and forth when there's millions of dollars invested here, but then an entirely different initiative and then a different president comes in and is back to pipeline and making us independent. But there are so many other issues going on. Health crisis, inflation, the obsession with war and control. The elderly, 50% of our elderly living on 30,000 or less, and 25% of that, 50% of that number minimum wage. There's so many things that need to be addressed. Everyone's talking about war or abortion. But what about the health crisis in our nation? What about health care? What about destroying soil and no support of farmers and vax, anti-vax? What is important to address? Because there's a whole list of things, but we don't even know how they're going to get addressed, because right now red and blue are just screaming at each other. And neither are listening. It is insanity. I watched the debate, and I've never been really into politics, but about a year ago, I was like, oh my gosh, people are crazy. Reds are like, you're radical. And blues are like, you guys are assholes. Like, no one's listening to each other. And if we just made decisions like, is this a good idea? Okay, base it on two things. Does the majority agree? That already implies a whole bunch of shit, right? Like, unbiased. How are we going to get actual answers from the majority? But if we can, does the majority agree? If not, no one's doing anything yet. We focus on what we can agree to now, but everybody has a say. So does the majority agree? And do the pros outweigh the cons? This implication means you need cross-partisan input. This is where you need to just pull in your favorites and make decisions that represent 5% of the nation, or maybe none of it because they're just your friends and your frat brothers. That's what the government system is like right now. Public and private sector don't talk. I don't even know what the government's doing. I watched a debate between two people taking shots at each other about golf handicaps, and I am the best president. Okay, first of all, if anyone says they are the best at anything, I already have an issue, because that's already an attitude that has no room for improvement. And then the blue candidate was a question mark. And then we got answers like, this, he's fine, this is good, nothing is changing. And now there's an entirely different candidate. And you just want us to like giggle along with it? Like, the people don't trust the government. So the government just does whatever the hell they want. But this is not going to work anymore. It's not. Because when you have people separated, we are vulnerable for attack. I watched people from the Secretary of Defense give the speech about warnings on cybersecurity attacks, and other countries like China and Russia and hackers trying to wreak havoc. It's not going to be like people pouring in and taking over Washington, D.C. and then just making their way down. No, they're going to shut us down completely. Do you guys remember, like a couple weeks ago, I experienced it multiple ways. My internet was down like a whole day. I had to go somewhere else to like run payroll for my client. But so many of my friends in all parts of the nation weren't able to work because their systems were shut down. That's just a small taste of like what a cyber attack on our nation could look like. And when we are vulnerable, that is when we will be attacked, because we are nation divided. We don't stand together. We don't listen to each other. We don't care about each other. And now is the time to start. We have to level up. We have to level up. And that means saying, I will take part in what's best for the country. Not based on my opinion. I have a say and I can give my input. But that doesn't mean the nation follows what I think we should do. And that's what red is doing, and that is what blue is doing. And if there are two opposite extremes, that means they both have very valid points. So if they come together, like MLK Jr. said, brothers at the round table, we could decide what makes sense, what is smart, not based on what the media, corporations, or any other influence, but what is best for us is we base it on what the majority agrees to and what is smart. What is the research? What are the pros and cons? Is this a good idea? And do the majority of people want it? People don't even want to work for the public sector anymore. It's underpaid. You don't have the benefits and retirement, and things have changed so much that public sector is just not worth it. Public sector, public service. I worked at UTEP for 7 years here. And I loved it. But things have changed so much now that Silicon Valley is getting the best and the brightest because they're paying them bukus of money. But guess what the public sector runs? Our cybersecurity, what our Department of Defense. We need to make sure that we're not so focused on stupid crap that doesn't matter that we literally lose the freedom because we're in such disarray and everybody hates each other. There is a candidate this year, and I learned about him on July 4th. RFK Jr. is revolutionizing the way things are. And everyone's freaking out because they're like, he's a candidate Democrat, or independents can't win, or what does he do? An independent cannot win. Everyone's freaking out because this hasn't happened since George Washington, the only other independent candidate. But that's what the nation needs. Because it doesn't matter if you're red or blue or purple or gay or straight or Christian or Muslim or anything else. If you are a citizen and in this country on our grounds, our citizens, our people have a right to choose. But George Washington also said, yeah, just be careful, because he was independent, right? The parties started after that. Federalists and whatever. But he said, be careful, because the parties can become engines to subvert the power of the people. And that is where we are today. Guys, can you imagine if the people banded together, like likes on a post? You get enough likes on a post, people are gonna pay attention. The government can't control us in that way. We have a say. We just need the numbers. And RFK is doing something revolutionary. He wants to destroy the hatred. And he wants to do away with the secrecy. He wants to incorporate transparency into the government. And he wants everybody to have a say. It means nobody gets everything they want. It means everybody benefits. And that everybody decides together what is the best decision. Not because everybody agrees, because everybody can agree to do something. That doesn't mean it's a good idea. What is the research behind it? RFK, for example, people are like, he's anti-vax. No one I've asked yet actually even knows the story when I ask further. Like, what do you mean? Like, based on what? Someone told them that and they just think that. And I mean, the YouTube and social media has been holding him under for like 6 weeks. I literally had to like type in every letter at my parents to pull up a video of Robert Kennedy Jr. Like, it's happening, guys. Everyone's getting real pissed off, and the fact that Joe Rogan just endorsed. The media doesn't know what to do with it because it's just like, here's Trump. Here's Trump. If the people are like, no, we want to check out this guy, everyone doesn't pay attention to Harris or Trump anymore. I don't know. Let's vet him. There's 90 days. Doesn't mean you have to vote for RFK in November. But holy crap, this guy is a president that I would trust to go to the president of another country and do what's best for the people. Not play favorites or make promises he can't keep or take from the people to feed ego or validation. I want a president that is transparent, accessible, that I can trust. I've joined 2 lives in the past week and a half with RFK Jr. And those lives, that we could submit questions in advance. That is access that the people don't have right now. We don't have it with Trump. My past employee works directly for Harris. I haven't gotten an answer on a phone call asking for her opinion on Harris's candidacy. I've decided to stop learning and researching everything about Trump and Harris because I no longer feel like either of them are the best decision for this country. To sit down with an enemy or president of another country trying to negotiate a treaty, or the people listening to an issue. I don't feel like either Kamala Harris or Donald Trump would do that and advocate on behalf of the people with I don't know, with what's needed in this day and age today. This should not be an election where red or blue wins. This should be an election where the people are finally happy because there's hope for change, not hope for more of the same. So if you're happy with the candidate that you want to vote for, I'm not trying to change your mind at all in any way. But even the staunch red and staunch blue people that I've talked to that are like, independent doesn't work. It didn't work in Mexico. It just weakened the bipartisan candidate. Stop thinking about the independent. You're just going to take votes away from Harris. Like, well, it was Biden at the time. And then the reds are like, you vote for the party at the end of the day. And I'm like, but neither of them are really acting on behalf of the party, and no, they're not even answering questions. That debate was holy crap embarrassing. That is like childhood petty behavior. And also, like, you didn't even answer questions. I think there's a better option. And everyone is scared because that option is completely different than anything we've ever done. But it's happened multiple times in this country. And it's time. So, look up videos. Listen to what RFK Jr. has to say. Even his own family doesn't quite understand what he's doing because he's supposed to be a Kennedy Democrat. And two people responded immediately that when I said, "Have you heard about Bobby Kennedy Jr.?" And they're like, "Kennedy Democrat." I was like, "No, but he's not a Democrat. That's the whole point." Not that his family's not backing him, but there's been lots of comments and interviews where, yeah, some of them don't agree. And I'm like, even my own family doesn't even like that I like the independent candidate. Because if you don't get it, you don't get it. Or if you're happy with who you're voting for, then that's perfectly fine. But a lot of people are like, there's no way an independent can win. Like, how would it even work? I'm like, well, I mean, I've done research to find out if it's possible. It certainly is. I like learned about the Electoral College. Oh my gosh, guys, I forgot a whole lot. But I started becoming very worried. Because I think we're in a place where everybody is in their little pigeonhole bubble. But we're not realizing the implications of what an attack on this nation would look like. And I don't want just what I want for the country. My personal opinions, I don't even put that in to consideration unless it's with a vote. My opinions are what is best based on all of the information. That's what we all need to do together. But it won't happen unless people stop arguing and start looking at other options. If you don't like the candidate 100% that you plan to vote for, just do the research on someone else. And if your mind doesn't change, cool. But I have not talked to one person who is completely happy with their candidate, whether it be Trump or Harris. Most of them are not willing to change their vote. This video is for the ones that are wondering. Because 6 weeks ago, I was like, oh my gosh, that debate, I was just like, is this actually happening on national television? This is a shit show. Guys, oh my gosh. Let's let a new president rise up. 2024 is the year. Level up revolution.